All right, guys, we're not solo this time. I'm joined by Donnie. Donnie's back. I told you we would be back. Gov's not quite in, but we're going to go ahead and start just so we can get the information out of the way, because this week, Donnie, I know you weren't there for the review. It was right after I did the review show that a lot of coaching news broke. Now we have some player news that broke in terms of injuries today. So we talked about like information being key in this league, and if we stay up on information, that's how you win the most profit. That's how we actually won the most profit last year with Durant and the running back situation. So we were right to say that in the week one. And actually, if you look at profit, we're 1-1 this season. Week one, we didn't make profit. Week two, we did. So we're 1-1 if you look at it from a seasonal perspective. But information is key. And it's funny because in that review show, like I said, you weren't with us, but I did a solo. And a lot of that was just a rant about how some teams were underperforming. And I talked a lot about how I thought the Brahmas were really talented and their coaching staff and their scheme was just letting them down. And then probably hours after that, we found out A.J. Smith was released due to differences.
Yeah, he resigned.
Oh, he resigned, but there was differences of opinion between him and Wade Phillips, apparently, on the offensive philosophy.
Apparently, which is interesting because they were like a match made in heaven last year.
Yeah, which is so I don't know what to believe, because like that's an easy go-to like match, kind of a match starter basically when there's a fire. It's like, oh, just blame coaching differences or whatever, and then you wish them the best on their endeavors. Like, so it might just be a bit PR, but apparently Wade Phillips wanted to involve a rushing quarterback scheme more. He wanted kind of a Cam Newton-esque offense, and Smith didn't think that Kellen Mond could run that, didn't want to actually call running back play. So I don't know what to believe. I do know the offense.
That sounds opposite, by the way.
Right, exactly. That's why I don't know. But what I do know is I don't know much about him, but this is the first time offensive coordinator that got promoted. But they did promote the wide receivers coach. So I'm hopeful that means we get Kirkland involved, because I talked about it during the review show. Kirkland's he has some of the best averages per catch in the whole entire league. They just have not thrown him the ball. Like if you looked at his yards per catch, everything is great. He was making big plays. He almost scored last week on like his only attempt in the second half, but they just haven't gotten the ball. So hopefully, being a wide receivers coach, maybe they lean more into the pass. I would be tempted to go with Mon, but then we heard a lot more information. Is there anything else, like in terms of things that you think are important? Because I got a list of like news and depth charts and different things that I kind of want to hit on, but I don't want to. I talked a lot during the review show, so if there's anything you for sure want to get off your chest.
With the Sims trade, I really, really love Samson Nakua this week.
Yeah, I had that in the notes.
Like that's my big thing. I mean, I talked about him week one as somebody I'd like to play, but I know Michigan rotates receivers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They clearly believe in somebody as a wide receiver too. They had their wide receiver one, and I think it's Mariner clearly now. But you wouldn't trade your other wide receiver if you didn't know other guys were ready.
Yeah, I got it pulled up on screen. Now, I mentioned, this is before but we talked about how often the line is so valuable in a league like this, where it's like that's not a position where you would normally have a lot of depth anyways, even in the National Football League. So for Houston to give up, they're starting, I think he was a left tackle, to be honest with you. I know he was a tackle. I think he was a starting left tackle. They gave him up for Sims. But their quarterback play has been so inconsistent. I don't want to even trust Brown. So as much as I like that offense, I think if I was to bet it would be in the prop market. I would try to maybe attack. Maybe we see a bit more offense from that team. But I want to stay away from it because I don't trust Brown, the quarterback.
Well, and Sims' price is disgusting.
Yeah, he's priced like the number one receiver at Michigan, and he's not going to pass Hall at Houston.
He could. Not anytime soon, but he could.
You think so? I think Justin Hall's a lot better. But if they had a quarterback, I would like this offense a lot more. But quarterbacks are king, and right now Brown looks really bad. I mean, he's got some rushing upside, but I don't know, man. I think that's the worst coach in the league too. I think Houston's.
Is there any Alex Magoo news, by the way?
He's out.
He's out because on DraftKings it doesn't say that.
Yeah, it's going to be Matt Corral. They want to give that injury one more week at least.
And Marable's back.
Yes, Marable's back, but Kane is out, the wide receiver.
Yeah, that's really this is an interesting week.
I was going to say it's very interesting, and I have more news on that as well. But the problem is
because Corral really loved Kane. Going back to last year, Corral loved Kane.
And that's the problem is after that, Donnie, everything is really spaced out. They're getting Amari Rodgers back, but he's been living off his name in this league forever. It seems like he's never really put together a dominant game ever since joining this league. He's been kind of a spot.
He's had a couple kick returns, but that's it. Yeah,
he's had a couple hiccups, is what I would say, like a couple moments where you notice him on the screen, and then he'll disappear for a couple weeks. So it's like the consistency is not there. I would think that Marlon Williams is a guy who steps up in his stead, but the problem is the Stallions spread the ball out so much.
I actually have a different person on my list for Stallions. I think it's Sternberger.
Sternberger, the tight end, yeah. So you think
I think Sternberger,
like a renegade situation where they're just going to use Sal Canellis is basically their number one.
Which I know Canella got hurt. Is he back?
Yeah, he's going to play, but that's why
he is, because that was a scary head injury.
That's what I thought too, but he is going to play.
Yeah.
I'll just switch over to DraftKings because you can see the injuries a bit better there because I have some guys highlighted. This is not a roster, obviously. We're waiting on Gov for that, but this is a kind of just a build of value guys and cheaper guys because of injuries. You see Houston, Merritt is going to be out for them. He was just ruled out today. Again, that's why we wait to the last minute on this news because I was watching a UFL podcast this afternoon and they didn't even have the news. So Kurt Merritt is going to miss. He got banged up twice in this last game. Still played through them. Got hurt. I want to say right before the second half, and then sometime during the late third quarter, and still played through it. But they wanted to shut him down for now.
Didn't we have a big running back name go down as well on IR? Was it Colburn?
It was Colburn, yeah. So that's why I have McCrary in here as well, Nate McCrary, who has been kind of the explosive guy. Like he's not the big, body bruiser, but he's been the explosive guy. I think he's a tremendous play this week. The interesting thing is no one knows what to do with Houston. I mean, we played Lingard the first week, and he did terrible. And he pretty much did terrible when he was subbed in for this game a little bit. Now, he wasn't the starter, and like I said, Merritt played through the injury last week. But he still saw 3 attempts and only got 4 yards. Like, talk about a plotter, Donnie. I think I would rather lose than play this guy again, to be honest with you.
Well, you know who I'm on? Maybe it's crazy to say. I think it's kind of fool's gold with Sailors. I think Sailors is very talented, but he does not get the touches that warrant his price right now. And I know the game's for blowouts, and maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's only scored, he scored 3 touchdowns last week to save his self.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had the 1 touchdown the week 1 that made him hit value.
Well, we talked about it. We've been talking about it. We talked about it week 1, how he was a supreme talent, but he was priced like a supreme talent. And if that production was going to remain and stay up, they were going to keep pricing him up, right? And to me, we played him last week. We forced him in. It made sense. There was enough value to do it. But to me, the worst thing happened if you wanted to keep playing him with any sensibility is he scored 3 touchdowns. So his box score looks really good. So all the casuals who are on the fence, whether they play him, whether they don't. So, they're going to see that 3 touchdowns on. They're going to think like, oh, well, he's been so good.
When you press on his player card there, if you can go to his player card.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I think this is very important
to
mention. This is why I want to do it. you see in the top corner it says 0 touchdowns in the top corner for players, and people are going to see that, and I'm sure a lot of people will look, not a lot, but there will be people who look and say, "Oh, he got 30 last week, and he hasn't scored a touchdown this year."
Yeah, he actually has what,
That
7?
like he has 4 touchdowns that I can remember. 4, I think it is. He has 4 rushing. He might have a receiving one too. No, 4 touchdowns total.
4 touchdowns, yeah.
So it's just like it's little things right now. Is there any game specifically that you like? Because I have one that I really like this week.
I would go back to talent. I mean, I talked about it in the review show. I was going to keep going back to it because I think Kirkland and Mond are too talented. We saw Mond play in the NFL. He's an NFL quarterback who's not going to get benched. I mean, a lot of these teams run the 2 quarterback system, or they have a quarterback they don't believe in, or their quarterback is injured, like Magoo and Matt Corral. Like the one thing is I think Kellen Mond has a really big leash. I believe the backup there is Kevin Hogan, who played at Stanford, who's nothing special. So I would just
Kevin Hogan's had a cup of coffee in the NFL as well, to be fair.
He has.
But I think the backup is, I can't even pronounce his name. It's like Garantano or something like that. And he was terrible last year. I mean, that was hard to watch with him last year.
I do think Matt Corral is a great play this week because we don't have any Magoo. We've seen that offense. They've looked really good. And they do have a quarterback we know because we did cover XFL as well as the first year of the UFL. And so they have Case Cookus, who was kind of a darling there for a while in the beginning of these spring leagues. But I don't think he'll get much play. I think Matt Corral has a pretty, long leash when it comes to this team. The problem with playing Corral is I don't really want to play anyone else on the Stallions from a wide receiver standpoint. Now, maybe if you like Sternberger and you think like he's the number 1 guy. But what I want to mention though quickly before we get on anything else is I think White is the guy if you wanted to take a chance on a roughneck. I know their offense has been terrible, and maybe you just want to stay away from this game at all. But if you said Merritt's out, and like I say, the other guys had his chance to start. He looked terrible. He's literally averaged less than a yard per carry, and White has actually saw way more carries and some receiving work, which was surprising last week. And he's not listed right now in the DraftKings depth chart as a starter. So what I think would happen, Donnie, is I think his ownership will be a lot lower. So if you were going to take a chance,
he still didn't average even 3 yards a carry. That's the problem. Houston's so bad.
Yeah,
and I mean so bad.
Well,
that's just like
it was a good transition because we talked about the Battlehawks and Sailors and just how efficient they've been. Houston's been the exact opposite, like the exact opposite. They put up the amount of offensive production like that it's almost embarrassing. Like you could eliminate them from the league and you wouldn't really miss any statistic. You wouldn't miss any talent. Like they've been very bad, and I've watched the games. They've just been bad.
Yeah, I will say this as well. Talking about Houston, keep in mind. On the depth chart as of week 1, I haven't looked at their depth chart now, but Lingard was listed as a starter over Merritt and White on week 1. We played him at min price because we were like, that's crazy value if he starts.
And if he was min price again, I'd probably play him. Like I'm a volume hound, so if we did find out he was going to get a crazy amount of volume, I'd play him. But right now, White is even out snapping him no matter who starts. I think
it's not even that, Logan. It's just with Lingard, it's like it's not just Lingard. I don't trust Houston at all as a depth chart anymore. Houston's depth chart means nothing to me after week 1.
Yeah,
because they proved that you can't trust it.
I think that's right. I think the best thing you can do in this situation is to fade Houston. But I'm just saying if you were going to play a Houston guy, it would be White for me this week. Maybe it's one of those receivers, not now that Sims is back. Now that you have another wide receiver, but you can't trust the quarterback. But it's going to come down to Sailors or not Sales. And speaking of Sales, we got Gov coming in here, floating back with us, so we can line up build. but it is an interesting week because we got all this value. We have all these injured guys. We got promotions. Guys who are going to play. I think McCurry is almost a lock at the running back position. And then because you have so many flexes, you can decide: do I Sailors? What do I do after that? Do I put a tight end there because I think he's the number one receiver, like for the Stallions that we mentioned. I think you can do a lot of things, but Sailors being, I think, $1,500 more than everyone. I think that's where we have to start.
It's definitely the place to start. Like,
I
he's
want
the
to
expensive guy you have to decide if you're going to play. I think I'm more willing to play him.
I was iffy on it. I know it's been 2 blowout games, kind of, but he is not getting workload worth that price tag.
Yeah.
He's getting saved by touchdowns, Gov. I mean,
that's true.
He is, but here's the thing.
But I also think he is the main touchdown guy for that team.
Yeah, but he
probably is.
Like if they are scoring, he is getting touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But DC has been very good on defense this year.
It's true, but that's the thing is they haven't been in a competitive game. So if they are in a competitive game, shouldn't we expect more efficiency and more usage out of Sailors?
That's
true.
But my thing is, I'm not only fading it personally, I am doubling down on it and playing that DC defense against them. That's how I'm playing this.
By the way, we didn't mention, but Greg Williams is also out as a defensive coordinator. I don't know the reason why. I don't really want to speculate, but I know he also resigned. So we saw an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator both resign this week. Saw a ton of injuries. I don't know if you saw the beginning of the show, Go, but we kind of recapped some of the more pressing injury news and some of the openings.
I unfortunately was not. I was trying to get everything working so I could join.
Yeah, so if you look at the screen, basically that's the value guys that we got, like that could be promoted to starters. Like you could make the case. And so my whole thing was we couldn't play Sailors pretty easily if we want to. There'll be some sacrifices, but there's obviously some elevations there. But I do think it's an ownership discussion, not just can we fit him? Because him being $1,500 more, if he fails and you don't play him, that's a huge edge.
True.
I think we have I'm a hard fade. Logan sounds like he's fading him.
Yeah, I am going to fade him in my personal.
I might still have him in my personal, but like with what Logan's saying, like, does he need to be the focal point? Could he just be last man in? I have 10K. I can play him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And the reason I kind of want to fade him as well is Butler was the Battlehawks MVP last year. He was their best player. He's injured right now. So maybe this offense gets better and Sailors gets more efficient, but I don't think that lends itself to fantasy points. He got there last week because he had 3 touchdowns. So if
he got there week 1 because of a touchdown.
Yeah, if they start using,
he doesn't score 20 without it.
Yeah. So I think it's a good fade. Am I scared of it? Yes. We're in Masters week. I'm wearing green. It's almost like when you look at the betting board in the Masters, it's do you play Scotty or Rory? Everyone after that is a huge drop off. That's what we're looking at with Sailors here. This is if we don't play the top guy, we're getting a huge amount of leverage, but we're taking a risk. But I think it's a smart risk.
Do we want to draft or talk through it? Because I know if we talk through every game, they're probably going to be pushing an hour.
I would say let's start drafting.
Okay.
Yeah, we can draft.
Because we can get to all the main points. Last week we basically just started a draft and got done pretty good, but our lineup was still pretty solid.
Before we get into it, let's just all say our favorite game this week to play with. Because I have a definitive favorite that I want to be playing this week.
I love that Brahmas Michigan game because there's the trade, the Brahmas fire their offensive coordinator. There's a lot of changeover. Whenever there's a lot of uncertainty, that's games I want to attack. No one knows what the new offense will look like. Michigan traded offensive weapon. They also have a major injury at running back. Their running back is on the IR. They also lost probably the best defensive lineman or the best defensive end this year. Speaks also went on the IR. So that game has a lot of like uncertainty.
I'm on that same game this week.
I kind of like that game too, but I will say that like Arlington and Bama to open it up is probably going to be a game we need to make sure we have pieces of. Like with with Magoo definitely not playing in Corral there, I think that's the other game to look at. But it's also the early game, so I don't want to be super heavy on it. Although that might be my mind that I need to get off of. Like, there's no problem being super heavy to the early game.
Okay, let's figure out our order here.
I do like Corral this week, though. I think he's a really smart quarterback. You got a number generator, Donnie?
I do.
12.
14.
99.
The number is?
The number is going to be 91.
Okay, I'll go last.
So, first off, I'm going to make our pick here for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I want Sternberger.
Okay.
Sternberger's the Birmingham guy I want. He had a good connection with Corral last year. No Kane, which is Corral's favorite target. So he's going to have to go somewhere else.
And you flirted with, you actually think he's the number one guy, right? Because if Gov doesn't know, Kane is out with a personal matter. That's all we know.
Yes.
It's between Kane and Williams. And I don't think it's anyone else.
Davis actually got the most work outside of Kane, but I do think Williams is the most talented.
Well, Sternberger had the most targets.
Did he? Might have.
Yeah.
I know they spread the ball out a lot, which is also why I don't mind Matt Corral.
But the Kane targets, the 4 Kane targets got to go somewhere. I mean.
Yeah. I don't think Sternberger's a bad play. And I think the tight end name might keep his ownership down a bit more. Some people are still worried about that, especially in the NFL.
Logan?
It's my pick, right?
Yep.
Yeah, give me the obvious value here. I'm gonna go with the running back out of Michigan. We don't have any Colburn. McCrae's kind of been their lightning bolt, kind of like we need a screen pass, we need an explosive play. He's their explosive play running back anyways, and if he's going to get more workload, I want a piece of that game.
15 touches both games. I like that play. Now
and he can get more. So.
Okay. Well, since I get 2 now, I think I'll just make it kind of easy. We're going to get a nice, good stack of Michigan going. So what I want to do is I want to put in Samson Nakua, who should be their wide receiver now.
Gov's going to love
wide receiver too.
Donnie's going to love
that. But he should be on the field as a main wide receiver all the time now. Yeah. And then I also, with my sec pick, I just want to take the Panthers defense.
Panthers defense?
Okay. Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they not the Michigan Panthers? Yeah.
You're a Panthers fan, so it really threw me back there. I thought it was.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah, I get you. No, but like those are gonna be my think. Like, I think we like that game, but I think I like the Michigan side more than anything. So let me just get running back, wide receiver, defense, and hope for another 23-9, 33-9 game that San Antonio's had so far.
Now, I don't like Nakua as much as Donnie does, but I know Donnie is like the biggest fan of him. So do you think, Donnie, he can be the number one? Or like,
I think he's a slot receiver. He's the best third down target probably left.
Yeah. So the slot guy just gets the easy target. So he'll get the easy work. Yeah, I can see it, I guess. I don't know. You guys seem a lot higher.
I don't know about his touchdown upside, to be fair. But at his price, I'm fine with that.
It's almost like the Stallion situation. We're taking a chance. We know the volume's going to go somewhere. They lost Sims. Sims was a big play for them. They got an offensive lineman, for him. So like maybe the quarterback has more time. that does kind of open itself up to more targets in the middle. So I like our theory there. Okay, so it would be back to you, right, Donnie?
Nope, it's back to you, Logan.
No, it's you.
Is it? Okay, I'm gonna go Kellen Mond.
Okay.
Not playing Corral. Okay.
Yeah, I think
You're
Kellen
gonna
Mond
play-
ownership will be a little bit lower because people have went there. I think he has NFL experience, unlike a lot of these quarterbacks. And I mentioned it before you joined. I just think he isn't going to get benched. Like we see a lot of 2 quarterback systems. He's one of the guys who is not going to be benched.
He's actually like 27, 31. Like he's actually getting a chance to throw. I'll give you that. But like these are also like, and it kind of works. Like the way I was building the lineup out was Michigan was going to have a big game, which is going to force Mond to push and throw.
Well,
Maybe that's why he's thrown it 27 and 30 times in the first 2 games because they've been down basically the entire time.
That's it. And AJ Smith is now gone. Like whenever you fire an offensive coordinator, you're saying there's a problem with the offense. I don't know if that problem will be fixed, but I tend to think like we could see a more aggressive, maybe like for example Stevenson, who hasn't really been worked in at all. They're like, you know what, he's fast. We haven't given him any chances. All it takes is one big play, and I think Mon will go lower owned.
All right. I have my next guy ready. I'm going to be the tight end guy this week, I guess. Sal Cannella. Let's do a little skinny attack of that Birmingham game. The most talented player.
Do we just play Sailors?
We have the money.
See, that's the problem. I really don't like Sailors this week, but it's sometimes it just makes too much sense.
Yeah, like because like personally, if I were gonna jam in one player just for raw points, and it's not Sailors, it would be Adams.
I love Adams this week,
but he's also $3K cheaper. So like if we do that, then we're moving off of someone. Whether it's one of those 2 tight ends or something.
Yeah, you could move off Nakua and go up to Mariner, and that's what I ended up doing in my personal.
That's what I did in my personal as well.
I'm fine if you guys want to do that. If you want to go Adams and then turn Nakua into Mariner, I'm okay.
Yeah, I do think there's a big ownership. I do think there's a big ownership value if we're right about Sailors.
Yeah,
it's true.
Is there anyone else besides Adams that's like really jumping off the page for me?
Not really. Not unless I get super cheap and then I'm kind of dart throwing. That's where it's like the other top wide receivers like Kirkland and Pearson could still have a big game, but Adams is just being like it's hard to not play someone with that kind of.
Let me just check to see
since we're talking about Adams, I just want to flash this up on the screen. Like he has been super dominant.
Yeah,
it's
hard to ignore that. Again, we were left with one man in it, and we had all the money to put in raw points. If I'm putting in raw points, it's either Sailors or Adams.
Yeah, I'd say Adams, and then we move up to Mariner would be the way I do it. But
I'm perfectly fine with that change. So he's right there, 7,400.
I mean, we talked about
and leaving a few hundred on the table is not bad.
It's not bad. I mean, we cashed last week, and we didn't even get a point from one of our players. So.
We just made sure we were smart and got everything else right about it.
Yeah.
That's a good move.
Now make sure you don't show what contest that goes in.
That's right.
It definitely won't go into a contest. That's a dummy lineup, right, Logan?
That's right.
One of those is a dummy lineup that's not going in a contest.
It really is. But this is for educational purposes only. But speaking of educational, me and Gov are part of a community. We actually know the guy who took down a big tournament last week. So I want to shout out Double J really quickly. He said we could show his lineup. We could talk whatever we want to. He was very proud of this. He also is a grinder like us who just like loves football and loves theory. And so he attacks like the UFL and these niche sports very similar. So this was his lineup last week. And you can just see it like whenever you make a stand on a guy, like for him this last week, it was Hunter. And that's kind of what we're doing with Sailors this week. We're saying, we're going to play somebody different at running back. We're going to play a position that could still get there, but we're not going to go with the obvious. But then he did jam in some, he jams in Adams. I mean, this lineup, I think every good lineup had sailors in it last week, right? There was no way you could get there without it. Like the raw.
What was the top prize of this one?
He won 500.
That's pretty
500.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that was probably either the $1 or the 50-cent mini max.
I think it was the mini max for the $1, but I could be wrong. But that just shows you like you can still win good money in the niche sports. It's not like the grand prize of like the NFL, but like if you're willing to grind the information edges, like I do think you can win quite a bit because like this lineup didn't say anything. It wasn't super risky. It wasn't like he didn't make a super great play. He just played smart, good plays. And there's so many people that don't follow the UFL. There's like, as long as you watch the games and you have a reason to believe something, like for example, none of us this week are saying Sailors is a bad play, right? Like we all think Sailors has played MVP level football. I just don't. At this point,
it's hard to trust that level of consistency with scoring variance.
Right.
That's really what it is. I did the same thing last year with, I believe, in normal football, I believe, with like David Montgomery. Is he getting a touchdown every game? Yeah. Does that really mean he's a viable play every week? Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, because like we have Hakeem Butler who might come back, and that's going to take usage. Or maybe, like I mentioned it, maybe we actually get a competitive back and forth game with DC. Maybe we see a back and forth game and Sailors just absolutely explodes. But I feel like he's almost $2,000 more than anyone else on this slate. So for him to game break, I think he has to have 35 points. Now, maybe he has 35 points and everyone else fails again. But to Donnie's point, he got 30 points off of 3 touchdowns. Like that.
And it's not fair to take away those touchdowns, but it's also like to score 3 touchdowns in any game is insane.
It's not like we don't like I said with my scenario. It's not like I don't expect him to have the opportunity to score all this stuff again. But is he just going to keep doing it at this rate? It's hard to see that multiple weeks in a row.
At this point, we're betting on the odds of it happening again. Not that it can't happen, this season, or he won't get the volume for it to happen. It's just like how likely is it to happen? And I think at this price and this opportunity, it's a lot smarter for us to build this way.
Yeah. I played Sailors last week, so
because we are playing a Sailor. To be fair, I mean Adams has been almost as good as Sailor, but I mentioned on the review show, I think, how Adams is still underpriced based on his production, but Sailors is way up there.
Yeah, well, and let's not forget week 1 with the St. Louis. Even their backup running back scored 25 points. Like,
yeah,
it's that week 1 game was such a dominant blowout. It really is hard to take that.
And I mentioned like they have like NFL level wide receivers who haven't really got much use. Like Mims could have a blow up week. We played Parsons in week 1 and almost got there. But here's the thing: we're going to break the tie. I mentioned it quickly off the top of the show, but we're 1-1 in terms of building successful lineups. Week 1, we failed to win the cash. Week 2, we made it, so we're 1-1. Hopefully, we get back in the winning ways. I got to shout out, you guys have been watching mostly the shorts. Like you guys just love the short content. I think it fits well with people just wanting information quickly. So I'm going to keep producing those. We are up by like 7 or 8 subscribers this month. So it really does matter. I really do notice. We do appreciate it. It gets it out to more people, right? Like this information I would share with my friends. But there's nothing more cool than when we won last year and we had that one hit, and we dug through the information. And then everyone came back that following week and was like, hey, you know what? I won too. I love that feeling. So if we can give you something of value and you can like and subscribe on your way out, it's just a simple click here and there, but it really does help us out a lot. With that being said, though, I think we pretty much wrapped up. Is there anything else?
I think we're good for this week. Let's hope someone else takes something down.
That's it for me. Hopefully.
Can we have a week where no coaches get fired or resign or decide to take a
Really?
sabbatical? Like,
No.
it's crazy, man.
No.
Ken
No.
wins and Hunt the first week. Now we fire defensive
I
coordinator.
want
this week.
chaos at all times.
Like, seriously though, I expect some injuries, right? Injuries happen, like IR. That's unfortunate. I did not expect all these coaching changes. Like, I don't know. I'm actually kind of
I
excited.
mean, you're in a league where if the head coach has the run and he wants to change something and thinks something's better, like that's the way to do it.
Well, you heard the rumor, right? I don't think Donnie believed it at all, but apparently Wade Phillips and A.J. Smith had a disagreement on how to run the offense. And the rumor is that Wade Phillips wanted Kellen Mond to be more like a Cam Newton style. He wanted to open his legs up, basically. And AJ didn't want to run that. He kind of wanted to run more of a gun setup. So I guess we'll see. I'm intrigued, though. I think anytime there's change, anytime there's uncertainty, it's a good time to attack in DFS. So thanks for making the time for me, guys. I did a solo show. It wasn't as fun. It wasn't. I did push through, but it's nice to have the guys back. Hopefully you guys have a good week and we win some profit. See you guys then.
Peace out, everyone.